Ladies and gentlemen, gather round, polish your boots and hold on to your helmets, because today we're diving into one of the strangest hybrids ever to crawl, skid and buzz across a battlefield, the NSU Kettenkrad. It's half motorcycle, half tank, and somehow all German efficiency. If a motorcycle ever had a midlife crisis and decided it wanted to be a Panzer, this would be the result. I think it's fair to say it's the only vehicle that could make both farmers and paratroopers nod in approval. Before we start this track-spinning adventure, give that subscribe button a friendly tap, like engaging low gear before a muddy hill. Because around here, we dig through the world's most peculiar machines, so you don't have to crawl through a trench to find them. Now, picture Germany in 1939. Industry is buzzing, engineers are sketching like caffeinated ants, and the Army's technical command, headed by Heinrich Kniepkamp, wants something small enough to fit in a Junkers Ju-52 transport plane, yet strong enough to haul a field gun once it lands. The result was the Kleines Kettenkrad HK-11, or as every soldier later called it, simply the Kettenkrad. Built by NSU Werke AG in Neckarsulm, this thing looked like a sidecar that ate its own sidecar. Production began in 1940 and ran until 1944 under brutal wartime conditions. Stower in Stettin even chipped in, building about 10–15% of the total run under license. By 1944, roughly 8,345 vehicles had rumbled out of the factories, and after the war, NSU built another 550 civilian versions between 1946 and 1948 for farmers and foresters who apparently thought tracked motorcycle was the answer to everything. Only around 400 to 500 survive today, which I believe makes them rarer than honest politicians. The Kettenkrad wasn't built to look heroic. It was designed to fit neatly inside a Ju-52 cargo bay, no bigger than 9 feet 10 inches, 2.99 meters long and 3 feet 3 inches, 1.0 meter wide. It could be rolled out on landing strips to haul light artillery, cable drums, or even tow the Luftwaffe's shiny new Me-262 jets. Troops used them everywhere. Russia's mud, Africa's sand, alpine snow, you name it. Technically, it was a brilliant mashup. Up front, you had a telescopic fork motorcycle wheel 19 inches in diameter for gentle steering. Behind, 2 continuous steel tracks with 40 links each did the real work. When the going got tough, soldiers could remove the front wheel entirely and steer it like a miniature tank by breaking one track or the other. Steering was handled by handlebars that were mechanically linked to those track brakes, making the Kettenkrad possibly the only bike where turning left literally slowed your right side down. Simple, elegant, slightly terrifying. Under the hood, actually under the driver's seat, sat a 1.5-litre, 178cc, 4-cylinder Opel Olympia engine, water-cooled, overhead valve with a Solex carburetor. It produced a heroic 36 horsepower at 300–400 revolutions per minute, which doesn't sound like much until you realize the whole machine weighed about 2,726 pounds, 1,280 kilograms, empty, and could still hit 44 to 50 miles per hour, 70 to 80 kilometers per hour. That made it the fastest tracked vehicle of WWII, though I think most soldiers preferred not to test that claim downhill. Power was delivered through a 3-speed manual gearbox with a high-low transfer case, 6 forward gears and 2 reverse. The clutch was foot-operated, the throttle on the handlebars, and the driver's dignity optional. The braking system was purely mechanical, operated by both hand and foot levers, and it needed all of them when the terrain turned ugly. Suspension came from a front telescopic fork and the now legendary interleaved bogie wheels, 6 per side in the classic Schachtelaufwerk pattern. It rode smoother than you'd expect, though no one ever called it comfortable. Fuel economy? Around 18 miles per gallon, 13 miles per gallon off-road. Not bad for something that could tow a 37mm anti-tank gun or a 350-kilogram, 770-pound trailer, the Sonderanhänger 1. The gas tanks flanked the engine like saddlebags, practical if you didn't mind sitting on a potential explosion. On the Eastern Front, soldiers used them to lay communication cables. In the desert, special tropical kits added a pusher starter, bigger cooling fan, and wider tracks. And when the war ended, Allied troops immediately stole the idea. US. MPs in Cherbourg happily patrolled captured units until the spare parts ran out. Now, let's talk about design, and I use the word design here in the same way you'd describe a shovel as ergonomic. The Kettenkrad was never trying to be pretty. It had all the aesthetic elegance of a filing cabinet with tank treads, but every bolt on it had a job to do. No chrome, no badges, just flat steel, rivets and paint. Wartime manuals said it left the factory in plain panzer grey, with field units adding camo as needed. There was something utilitarian and poetic about how everything was exposed, like the machine wasn't hiding anything. That's honesty. Brutal, clanking, Teutonic honesty. No windshield, no roof. Just the wind in your face and the comforting knowledge that your saddle was flanked by 2 gas tanks and a fan belt spinning at 3,000 revolutions per minute. Now, compared to its rivals, actually, let's be honest here. There were no rivals. Nobody else looked at a motorcycle and thought, needs more tracks. The Wehrmacht had other transport options, sure, motorcycles with sidecars, Kugelwagens, full-blown half-tracks, but none of them could do what the Kettenkrad did in the same footprint. It climbed hills like a goat with anger issues, towed field guns, laid wire, and still fit in a cargo plane. On paper, it shouldn't work. On the battlefield, it worked wonders. The only things that could match it were either much larger or much slower. And yet, by some miracle of clever engineering and stubborn German logic, this half-bike, half-caterpillar became a workhorse. The Americans had jeeps, the Brits had Bren gun carriers, but only the Germans said, yeah, put tank treads on the motorbike helmet, it'll be fine. After the war, when Europe was a giant rebuild project, NSU had the clever idea of reissuing the Kettenkrad for peacetime use. You know, for farmers, vineyard owners, foresters. You haven't lived until you've seen a grape harvester in overalls driving a military-grade track bike between rows of Riesling. In France, one company called Barbiole even widened the track to help in vineyards. I mean, I've seen weird tractors, but this takes the fermented cake. Now let's talk money. During the war, each Kettenkrad cost around 600 to 810 Reichsmarks, equivalent to roughly $681 in 1947. Adjusted for inflation, that's about $10,000 today. But in today's collector market? Oh, baby, that figure crawled up faster than the Kettenkrad on a muddy hill. At the 2008 Bonham's Goodwood sale, a pristine 1945 NSU hammered at $123,520. In 2018, a 1904 example pulled $99,000 at Make-A-Mindy. By 2021, Bring a Trailer saw one climb to $129,500, and in Germany, auction house Hermann Historica moved one for €150,000, roughly $205,000 at the time. So yes, that little tracked bugger is worth more than most houses built before the Cold War. If you've got one sitting in your barn, maybe next to Aunt Gerda's jam jars, start dusting. And finally, if you're ever tempted to build your own Kettenkrad out of spare lawn furniture and snowmobile parts, don't! Just remember, not every dream needs to leave tank tracks in your driveway.